Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the District Board of Directors to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas on August 24th, 2022 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on August 18th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of said meeting. We call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. Myself, Mr. Donahue, Mr. Bowder, not in attendance is Mr. Friedman, who gave notice, and Mr. Starkey will stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all its blessings. Keep us ever mindful of our responsibility to serve our community. Bless us with wisdom and guide us in our decisions so that we may be better stewards. Give us clarity so that we can effectively tackle each part of today's agenda, reveal problem areas, and lead us to the best solutions. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
An invitation to the public for any comments. Anybody who has anything to say. I read something on Facebook, which is a dangerous thing to ever read. And I just want to tell the district that I feel like we're doing a good job of getting word out and trying to let people know what's going on. And I thought that what I read was a grossly uneducated comment that was, incredibly not supported by the data of all the hard work you guys do. So I just would say, continue putting out there our everything that we do put out there. And I was actually happy to see that the response to that comment was a lot of other well-reasoned responses, right? So that's good. So let's keep putting out there the good word, especially the island. Apparently was wondering why we don't have a plant on the island. I'm sure there's probably good reasons for that. And at the same time, thought, why are our rates high, right? Like, kind of hard speaking out both sides of our mouth. Build us a new plant, and keep our rates low, right? So, but anyways, I just know, give them my own business. I don't like getting any kind of nasty comments, and I always feel like I want to give a pat on the back to you guys for the hard work you do. And unfortunately, public service, you usually only hear about it when it's something snotty like that. So anyways, you guys do a great job. Keep it up.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. No other comments, then we will move on to item 4, public hearing on the proposed ad valorem tax rate for the fiscal year 22 to 23. What do I have to do for this? Anything?
Just open the hearing and then ask if there's anybody that wants to speak. And then if there's nobody, then you can close the hearing and that's it.
Great. I open the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak regarding the ad valorem tax rate? What, do I have to say anything about it, or this is it?
You just say, hearing nobody, then we'll close the hearing.
Great. Hearing nobody, your hearing is closed. Item 5, consider and discuss for possible approval a resolution to adopt the ad valorem tax rate of 0.069300 for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
So moved.
Second. So moved by Mr. Bowder, second by Mr. Donahue. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Could I just make a comment?
Okay, but it's too late now.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind the public that this tax rate is a debt service rate only. There's no maintenance or operations for this that come from this tax rate. It's only to pay the existing tax supported debt. So I just want to clarify that. I know there was some confusion from people in the public about that. Why is it going up so much? It's going up so much because this is the first year that we're paying the 2020 tax bond. And so that's debt that we issued. And this is the first year that debt payment is
So to
due.
clarify that,
So-
this tax rate is supported by, this tax rate is at this rate to pay for the bond, which was approved by the voters.
Correct,
Yeah, so
correct.
the community voted for this tax rate in effect.
That's right. That's right.
I move that we approve the tax rate.
Great, thank you. Well, we've already.
Since we jumped in, I wanted to make
It's
sure. we get it
but I
right.
think that that's important to know, like, hey, we didn't up this rate willy-nilly. The voters voted to increase this
Yes,
rate to support the
exactly.
bonds.
None of it is going to salaries or vehicles and none of that. It's only going to support the debt on those projects.
On the
that were-
projects that the public approved to support the island.
That's right. That's right.
And the rest of the moderators areas. Absolutely.
Said before down the road, that's something else. And so you're gonna have an overrun time when they move back, way back, because inflation all the costs. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important to remember that we are the last stop on the line in terms of water. And we are 23 miles away from the Rio Grande River. And that it's a miracle that we have clean water here, quite frankly. I never thought about it until I got it. And the fact that we get water to the island, which is another couple miles, and I think we're doing a great job. And I would invite anybody who has questions about it to come to a board meeting and kind of hear what is going on, ask their questions. I had somebody in the community ask me about, make comments about desalinization plant got approved a couple of years ago. Why isn't it already built and we're using it? That type of thing takes decades, but I came to the meeting, asked about it. Now I see we have a report on that. We had one last time, and we're going to have a more in-depth report today. So if anybody in the community who may be listening or listens in the future to this, please come to the meeting, ask your questions. We're here to answer any questions and make people feel comfortable about how their water rates and their tax dollars are being spent. We're all taxpayers too here. Every person,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so we all care just as much. Anyways. Move on to item 6, consider and discuss for possible. Was it after item 6? That's when you want me to do the insurance or now?
Right, but the 6 is, go ahead and do that one. 6.
Okay, consider and discuss for possible approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from August 10th, 22.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Bowder. All in favor? Aye, motion carries. We're gonna speed up item 14 to right now. Consider and discuss for possible approval of group health, life, dental, and vision insurance. So if we want to turn to 14. Do we have a presentation on this? Yeah, some comments?
We
Yeah,
had,
we-
we did have a committee, insurance committee meeting that we checked everything out, but
Who's
if there's
on
any
that
questions, Enrique, go ahead. Is
Myself.
there any?
Scott.
Yeah.
And so we have a recommendation from the committee.
Okay, great.
We had a committee meeting. Present here. We went on request for proposals. You can see the proposals there and we are recommending going with the proposal that we saw in the committee meeting. That's the recommendation for this.
Which provider?
Sure benefit administrators.
Okay.
Which is really United.
It's United Health.
Which is a good one.
So, yes.
It's a heck of a savings.
For our health insurance, it's a level funded plan from Assured Benefit Administrators, and that uses the United Healthcare Network. And we should have a savings, cost savings on it compared to the current health insurance plan that we offer. So that was the recommendation from the committee.
Looks like a good plan. Can board members get on this? Does anybody have any questions about it? Mr. Donahue, you have any comments on it from the committee?
It's $48,000 less than your last year's plan. And then it's $147,000 less than what they were gonna have if they renewed with the same company. So I'll say the motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Bowder. All in favor?
I think we
Aye.
need to do vision, dental, and all the other policies as well.
That was just for the medical.
Okay,
We need to approve also vision. We are recommending going with the option number 1, your plan.
it's all through through Assured Benefit Administrators?
No,
No,
No? Is there a different line item here?
no, it's all on the same item.
Okay,
It's all said one.
It's
Oh, I'm
just that
sorry.
one's a health plan, the other one's a dental,
Then,
and then the vision. And of course,
and for the dental and term life insurance, we're gonna stay with the same that we have right now. There won't be any change.
MetLife,
The
mhm.
MedLife for dental
Yeah.
and life insurance.
Just a second color from the renew.
It's just the renewal. Mhm.
I move that we approve the life, dental and vision. Yeah, dental was that like.
Yes.
So should approve the vet life, dental.
And then the life and accidental death and dismemberment. Enrique, the life insurance and the AD&D.
They're both at vet life.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So there's a motion by Mr. Bowder to approve dental, vision, and life insurance. So is that second by Mr. Donahue? Second by Mr. Donahue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Easy. Picked up from the big contract. All right. Item 7, presentation by Seven Seas Water Group. Given by Richard Whiting on seawater desalinization.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chairman, we have on Zoom, Mr. Richard Whiting, and then I think Terry Arnold is with him, partners. Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Oh, great stuff. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present to you. Let's go here. Right, here we go. So introductions, well, Mr. Gowan's just been kind enough to let you know who we are. I have to say it's nice to be back. I think I was presenting to the board around 11 years ago after you put forward a proposition to raise money for a 1 MGD seawater desal plant out on the island. I came down and spoke, so it's nice to be back again. I'm just going to run through who we are, the Seven Seas Water Group, and just how we believe your proposed seawater desalination plant could be delivered using the public-private partnership model of delivery. So who we are? Well, we're a Morgan Stanley Infrastructure Partners portfolio company. They acquired us a couple of years ago, recognizing the value of our services and solutions, optimizing the life cycle costs of both water and wastewater treatment plants. We offer water as a service solutions. We believe we're unique in our focus on building long-term partnerships with our clients. And this is something that I'll come back to a couple of times in this presentation. We aggregate over 230 years of operations and maintenance experience with membrane-based water treatment plants. And I would suggest you'll be hard pushed to find someone else in the private sector with that much experience. And a quick word on Morgan Stanley Infrastructure Partners. They're a private infrastructure investment platform with over $16 billion in assets under management. Still plenty of money. So it's just to give you some comfort, we do have the financial backing required to execute such a project. Bit about us, Seven Seas Water Group was actually founded 15 years ago. In that time, we've grown quite substantially. And you'll see one of those points on there. We're headquartered in Tampa, Florida. We have key locations elsewhere. Most of our seawater desal plants are in the Caribbean, as you can see in the map to the right. And we finance, develop, design, build, maintain, operate water and wastewater solutions using that water as a service model. And on the top right, you'll see there, we currently own more than 150 water and wastewater treatment plants, with an additional 19 under build, own, operate, or public-private partnership contracts. Our fellow group company, AUC, is actually based in Houston and deals on the wastewater side. And so most of those wastewater treatment plants that we own are actually in Texas. And what we do? Well, we enter into long-term partnerships with our clients through our water as a service solution. Again, I come back to this, we have over 230 years operation and maintenance experience, and that really gives us our competitive advantage in the market because we design and build to optimize plant lifecycle costs. We're not looking at making profit from selling equipment, doing the construction. We're looking at this long-term. We want those plants to really be optimized for that long-term time. And that feedback loop from all of that operation and maintenance, plus standardization across our desalination plants, really makes us competitive. And of course, we do finance projects through debt and equity or through bonds. And so our model, we do have an in-house engineering team. So we do design the actual RO process in-house. We do then put that out to bid, and we do design based on local conditions. But as I said before, we do standardize across our plants. We own 16 seawater desalination plants. So we standardize so that we always have spares in stock, and we can interchange operators on our plants as well. And I'll come to that a bit later as well. We build, we project manage the build, but we do use local or regional contractors to do the construction. We also acquire and upgrade plants, both water and wastewater. So we can actually come in and actually acquire an existing plant if it needs upgrade or expansion. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we do finance all of this as well, and we operate. And that's really our key is that long-term operations. And just some quick notes. I won't bore you all with all these various points, but the key point there at the front is if you enter into a P3, you then don't pay anything until we are supplying the water at the contracted quality and quantity. So all of that cost in between, which includes all typical engineering costs you would incur and study costs, we take on. Okay, and really that's the key part I want to stress there. Everything else I've really touched on the other slides. Hopefully you can look at this afterwards. But that really is the key thing to let you know. You can sit back and say, great, we've got a partner, a development partner. They're now going to run with it, and we already know what we're going to be paying for the water once they're ready. But coming back to all this O&M experience we have, this is something that we're very proud of and really gives us a competitive edge. You can see in the graph, our plant availability exceeds 97%. And to give you all the benchmark, industry standard in designing seawater desal plants is to allow for an 85% availability. Those that we've acquired that were government owned have been lucky to be reaching 70%. So that 25% plus delta in plant availability is what's enabled us to demonstrate time and again that we can sell clients water at a lower price than they can produce it internally. And even though looking at the potential plants for you, it would be custom land-based plants. I just want to let you know that we do have quick deploy units, 1 million gallon per day now we're up to. So if we were in that process, the drought continues or gets worse, we can always put in one or more of our quick deploy units in a matter of weeks to get water in. And this is a good time as well to mention that I believe TCQ still requires a physical pilot for seawater desalination plant. They removed that requirement for brackish plants, not for seawater. We started off as a company 15 years ago with 50,000 gallon per day containerized units, and we have adapted a couple of those to run as pilot plants. And the key thing with the TCQ requirements is that the pilot is the same process as the full-scale plant, and we can ensure that's the case. So we're also able to supply that physical pilot as well. And I believe it needs to be operated for at least 6 months to give the results to TCQ. And one more thing before I move on from this section is we signed the first P3 contract for an RO plant in Texas with the city of Alice last year. And that's for a 3 million gallon per day brackish desalination plant. And the city of Alice chose the P3 project delivery as we were able to demonstrate it was a lower cost than the traditional design bid build approach. We're currently finalizing the discharge permit application. It's actually supposed to go in this week. An interesting thing there, and something I'll raise later as well for you, is the project is a mix of private sector finance for the desalination plant, that's coming from us, and SRF funding for the ancillary works. The ancillary works being connection pipelines, discharge pipeline, wells. And as you may imagine, there are plenty of companies out there that can do that type of work. And so using state funding for that made more sense. We've been working with the city engineer, which in this case is Norris DR, to coordinate with the Texas Water Development Board on this split of funding. It's the first time they've had to deal with it. So we've built up a very good relationship with the Water Development Board, and they now understand how a project can be split up into smaller projects, certainly as far as looking at the funding and funding packages of a project are concerned. And we've also been able to develop a very good working relationship with TCQ during this time and the permitting process. And in fact, we use a permitting consultant based in Austin, who is actually an ex-director of water quality for TCQ. So we're very confident about navigating any permitting process. So moving on, I think you've probably heard enough of my voice for the time being. So I have a little animated video here about how what the RO process includes.
As the Earth's population continues to grow and develop, our limited freshwater resources become increasingly scarce. We are fortunate that the Earth's oceans offer an alternative and can provide a sustainable supply of potable water. Seawater can be economically and reliably converted to potable water through a process known as seawater reverse osmosis. The process starts by extracting water from the ocean using wells located on the shoreline or by using an intake structure located in the open ocean. Osmosis is a naturally occurring process where a solvent, such as water, passes through a semi-permeable barrier. The semi-permeable barrier, or membrane, allows some things to pass through it, but not others. In nature, the direction of flow through the membrane is from a less concentrated solution, such as fresh water, to a more concentrated solution, such as seawater, until equilibrium is reached. Reverse osmosis is when the opposite occurs. By pressurizing the concentrated solution, the seawater, we are able to force water molecules to pass from the salty seawater solution through the membrane to the fresh water. To protect the reverse osmosis membranes from becoming clogged by solid particles that can be suspended in the seawater is filtered before passing through the membranes. This is accomplished by using multimedia filters, which are tanks or vessels containing a series of layered granular materials. These materials can be anthracite, garnet, sand, pebbles, and/or gravel, which are assembled in layers. The filters remove sand, twigs, seaweed, and other particles from the seawater. In some cases, other types of membranes, known as ultrafiltration and microfiltration membranes, are used instead of multimedia filters to pre-treat the seawater. Next, the filtered seawater travels to the cartridge filters, which act as a second stage of filtration. Cartridge filters used for seawater reverse osmosis are typically made from a yarn-like synthetic material that is wound into cartridges. These remove even smaller solid particles from the seawater, such as fine sand and clay, before the seawater proceeds to the reverse osmosis membranes. High pressure pumps increase the pressure of the seawater up to 1,000 psi. The pressure needs to be sufficiently high to overcome the naturally occurring osmotic pressure and force water from the saltwater side through the reverse osmosis membranes to the freshwater side. The salt particles in the seawater are ejected from passing through the membrane to the freshwater side and remain behind on the concentrated saltwater side. The reverse osmosis membrane can be thought of as a number of sealed envelopes connected at their open ends to a tube. There are spacers between each envelope which allow water to flow across the membranes. The membrane envelopes and spacers are then wound around the tube like a roll of paper towels. The reverse osmosis membranes are then enclosed in a fiberglass shell. The membranes are connected end to end, usually 6 to 7 membranes together, and housed in vessels that are built to withstand pressures up to 1200 psi. As the pressurized seawater enters the pressure vessel and flows across the membrane surface, the water molecules are forced into and through the membrane envelopes, leaving the salt molecules behind. The desalted water passes through the membrane and emerges at low pressure, where it is collected in a tube and directed to one end of the pressure vessel. The concentrated salt stream that is rejected from flowing through the membrane continues to pass across the membrane surface, where it is collected separately. The concentrated salt stream retains about 55% of the total energy of the seawater stream that was originally fed to the membranes. To reduce the energy that is required to operate the reverse osmosis plant, the pressurized concentrated stream is piped into an energy recovery device. Here, up to 98% of the energy of the concentrated salt stream is transferred to an equal volume of the incoming seawater in an isobaric energy recovery device. The energy recovery device significantly reduces the plant's operating costs by recovering the concentrated salt stream energy and using it to pressurize 60% of the seawater that is fed to the membranes. The concentrated salt stream will have about a 60% higher salinity than the incoming seawater. The concentrated salt stream is sent back to the ocean through a brine disposal well, or a device known as a brine outfall. The brine outfall is situated in an area of significant ocean flow so that the salt levels are quickly returned to equilibrium with the ocean. The location for the outfall should contain no sensitive marine ecosystems. In a properly designed brine outfall, no noticeable increase in salinity can be detected at a distance of a few meters from the discharge. The pressurized seawater leaving the energy recovery device has its pressure boosted by a small booster pump so that it is at the same pressure as the seawater leaving the high pressure pump. The boost is necessary as some pressure has been lost as the stream travels through the reverse osmosis system. Approximately 40% of the seawater that enters the system is converted to potable water during the reverse osmosis process. The potable water is further treated by adding calcium carbonate to improve the taste and bring the pH to the neutral range. Chlorine is also injected to provide disinfection properties as the water travels from the reverse osmosis plant through the distribution pipes to homes and businesses. Proper conservation of natural water resources is practiced, water reuse has been applied, and a water deficit still remains. Seawater reverse osmosis can offer a sustainable alternative. With good stewardship, it can provide life-sustaining water for coastal communities. Desalted water supplies, which are not susceptible to drought and other natural disasters, can provide a clean, safe, potable water supply.
Okay, I hope you all found that of some use. And it's certainly the improvement in membranes over the years and those energy recovery devices that were mentioned in there that have brought down the cost of seawater desal to a very competitive price compared to other potential new sources of water now. So I'm now going to move on and talk about, the public-private partnership option for you for such a seawater desalination plant. We can certainly deliver such a plant. The P3 delivery model, just so you know, it's actually chapter 2267 of the Texas Government Code addresses all of this. And as I mentioned before, we've already gone through all of this with the City of Alice and how this fits in with the local government codes as well. Now, the budget pricing, we were asked by your staff to look at 3 million gallon per day and 5 million gallon per day plants. So you can see, again, budget pricing for this, for a 3 million gallon per day plant, just under $4 a thousand gallons excluding power, just over $4.50 per thousand gallons including power. And for a 5 million gallon per day plant, that drops down to $3.33 per thousand gallons without power, and still under $4, $3.90 a thousand gallons including power. And that's with the power priced at the 4 cents per kilowatt hour that you currently have under contract as the district. And to be very clear, those costs would include us financing, designing, constructing, commissioning, and operating and maintaining the plant for 15 years. No additional cost to you. If there's a problem with the membranes, we mess up, there's a problem with the pump goes wrong, that's to our cost. Nothing comes back to you except for an annual CPI-based tariff increase. Now, this is just for the plant. We would look for the Guinamadri in this particular case, as we've priced it, to supply the intake pipeline to the plant limits, connect from the plant limits to the distribution system, and from the plant limits to the combined discharge pipeline. And I've got some plans to show you, or little maps to show you just now, just what that would mean, where that would all fit. But we will certainly work with you for the necessary permits and permissions. As I've already mentioned, I believe it's still necessary to put in a physical pilot plant, which we can certainly do during that time as well. We know that you are starting to work with the Corps of Engineers on the intake study. We currently operate 15 seawater intakes, and so we would be happy to contribute and review that work as it's going on, so you know that it's headed in the right direction. And also we know that you're looking at a proposed wastewater reuse plant as well. We would certainly look to see if that couldn't be included or perhaps viewed as one project. We could certainly offer that as a P3 solution as well. And we certainly then could work with you for the necessary permits and permissions for that. TCQ believes it's going to issue guidelines on direct potable reuse by the end of this year. They're doing it all internally. So we expect quite a number of comments. So we imagine it's more likely to be the middle or end of next year before those guidelines are issued, and it's something that everybody can look at and base on. That price should be a lower price than the seawater desal. Obviously, the volume isn't as significant, but it should then lead to a lower blended price from the two plants. But to give you some idea where that would fit, I think you're all very aware of this. So in the top left with the yellow pin here is your existing water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant site. This at the moment, even though I know you're undertaking studies, would seem to be an ideal proposed intake location. And right now your current discharge location is down here in the bottom right with the pin for the wastewater, and that can be converted to a combined discharge permit. So zooming in on your existing water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant, you can see here Woody's Lane. I use that for reference because it shows in the drawing on the next slide. You've got some works here, but certainly this area of land to the north of your existing plants is where staff are considering the new plants could sit. And so moving forward to this one here is like Woody's Lane. And this is really the area that a 3 million gallon per day seawater RO plant would take, but certainly we could probably fit 5 million gallon per day in something not very much larger at all. And the little block above is really showing the kind of area that would be required for the wastewater reuse plant as well. And just zooming into that layout to give you some idea, these are the membranes you were seeing, the pressure vessels in that video. So this is a 3 million gallon per day plant, each one of these capable of producing 3 million gallons a day. And to be clear, of course, we'd actually be looking at pulling in 6.5 million gallons per day to be able to produce those 3 million gallons per day of drinking water. So that's a very quick outline for you all. Certainly we're very interested in working with you on this project. We can certainly bring significant experience to work in partnership with you. And that's really it for me today. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but obviously if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Appreciate you giving us that presentation. Very informative. Loved hearing it. Glad we moved ahead on this quickly. Hear more about it. You guys ready to roll? Yeah.
We can get more information as we go.
Yeah.
Just want to ask a quick question, Richard. After the 15-year agreement, that RO system will be the water districts?
It certainly would. We can do it two ways. We can, as more traditional, we can own the asset from day one. And at the end of the 15 years, it transfers to you in fully operating order, everything upgraded as it should have been during that 15-year term. So you can just step in and take over the operations and maintenance, complete with standard spares and everything on the side. Or if you felt very strongly about the ownership issue, we could do it as a concession where you would actually take ownership from day one, but the money that we had put in would really act as a concession fee, again, for a 15-year concession to operate and maintain that plant and provide the water to you. Okay, so we can do it either way.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, sir. We'll get back with you as soon as, maybe tomorrow, I'll give you a call.
okay, thank you very much. Thanks very much for the opportunity, gents.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Finance, you're able, kind of real quick to give us an idea of what that water cost is, it's got basically $4.50 per kilogallon. What's that compare with our current, what we're currently paid to produce water as a district?
I believe in our process is like $2 a thousand, 1,000 gallons per, the cost, $2 per 1,000 gallons, that's what it is. And this one's here, like the 3 million that I just saw right here. There's one with electricity included. That I think it was 3.
With electricity for 3 million gallons for 4.54. So a little bit more than it's been.
Yeah, it would roughly double the cost.
They make the money up there in this one. Yeah, what's the process?
It's about double of what we're
About double, right?
producing our water. On one,
From start to finish. Like our production and disposal costs as a district. Total everything we do, so it's $2 a kilogallon.
that's our part.
You guys absolutely sure of that? That's kind of an important number.
It is-
If you're not, get really sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, can we get really sure?
Yes, we can.
Otherwise, we can't, there's no basis of comparison unless we know that, so.
Okay.
That's kind of like step one, I think.
Perhaps I may say something, sir, as well. I would also
Yeah.
ask you to bear in mind that you will have a blended price going forward. Any new source of water, by definition, is going to be more expensive than your current source of water, right? Otherwise, you did something wrong in the past in the development.
That's right, yeah.
But it will be a blended cost. It's not as if the whole of the current supply is being replaced by the new supply. So it's just to bear in mind that it wouldn't be a 100% increase. I mean, I accept it may be a 50% increase or something if the $2, it's around $2 or so. But it's the cost of a new water supply. Yeah, and at least this is drought proof. We can see right now what's happening in South Texas. Drought is a very serious concern.
Thank you.
Point taken, thank you.
Kind of a time frame do they do once if you made a commitment or you did that, what kind of time frame? As far as the actual work is.
You can answer.
Like,
What's our time frame on that? If we said next week, hey, yeah, we love it, let's roll.
We would be able to put the plant in within 18 months of getting the permitting. It's the permitting that's key. And I've mentioned stuff before, I would strongly urge starting discussions with TCQ sooner rather than later, even on the combined discharge. We've seen what's happened in Corpus Christi on applying for discharge permit there. That can take some time. So it all comes with really the key item here is the permits and permissions, actually dropping in a plant, 18 months. And as I said before, if the permits were in place and you were in dire need, we could always drop in one of our quick deploy containers within a matter of weeks and supply you water in the meantime if you were in trouble. So it's that time frame.
What's the permitting timeline? 5 years?
Well, it should be able to be done in a year, especially as you're doing a combined outfall, but of course they want to see the modeling and everything as well. So you're probably looking at about 18 months from now to complete the permitting. Up in Corpus Christi, it's taken around 3 years because of people, contesting the case and this and that. That shouldn't be such an issue for you, because you already have that discharge at that location, etc., and you've got that flow through. But you need to allow some time to get that done. And as I say, the sooner it started, the better, I would suggest, seeing what's happened before. And it's taken us about 9 months to get a discharge permit for a brackage plant for Alice. So these things can drag on.
What's the number one objection from communities?
To be honest with you, in Corpus, it's far more to do with them not wanting more industry, and they feel that the desal plant will allow more industry to come, than it is really objecting about damage to marine life, etc. That's the excuse they use. But again, there are so many desal plants in the world. I think the number of desal plants in the world now produce enough water per day to supply Texas, the whole of the state of Texas. So there are plenty of desal plants out there and plenty of studies that have demonstrated how we greatly minimize any impact on marine life for both the intake and outflow. So that really shouldn't be an objection now. It's something that's addressed in the whole permitting process as well, that TCQ's adopted, and of course there's the EPA there as well, looking over their shoulder. But that's really the main objection tends to be, what's the damage going to be to marine life? And so we have to demonstrate time and again that the concentrate or impacts of the concentrate are being mitigated in the approach to the discharge and the discharge design.
It's probably a lot easier getting this permitted in the Caribbean.
Yes, because they really don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah,
Takes me 18 months to get a mower.
yeah,
So
that's right.
pretty-
But we supply all of the water in the US Virgin Islands. That falls under an EPA district as well. So we are well used to dealing with US regulations on that side of things.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good question.
All right. I think that puts us at, you'll get us a follow-up on that. We got to do some intelligent thinking about the finances with it. And where are we with TCEQ communication or permitting? We're at the study phase, but are there any other steps we could take? I'm looking down at your end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of, no, we haven't even started that discussion yet. We'd be at square one, initiating talks with TCEQ.
What should we do? If we were like, hey, this is a serious thing, we really want to explore, what would be our next step?
I mean, I would probably, it's kind of along the same lines as what we're doing with reuse, meet with TCEQ, find out what design data they're gonna want to see, and start collecting the lab work, start building data to proceed with design. Right now, yeah, I mean, for example, with the cord, we just sent the 25,000 so we can kick off that study with for the intake modeling. So I mean, I'm sure that's going to all contribute to getting this to the next step.
I'm sure 7Cs would be more than happy to give you some pointers as to first steps. And so Carlos, if you were going to follow up and follow up on the call and perhaps
Yeah, we've had 2 pilots already done. I don't know if they consider that as time approval for the next move that we do, like another pilot maybe. Maybe they'll make it shorter. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. We'll look into it some more.
And let's say it was the worst case scenario and the drought got really bad and we couldn't get water, right? Or our water was halved. And we hadn't done anything with this, we would kind of be kicking ourselves. So my thought is like, hey, why not do it? Because people would much rather pay double for water. Although, like you said, it wouldn't be actual double for water, but they'd rather pay double for water then pay zero for no water.
Exactly,
So,
right.
Yeah,
We're blessed here that we do have the seawater real close and compared to the pilots that we did in the island, that, you know, it didn't work out that good, but we did some testing on that seawater and it does come out drinkable on both the pilots. It's just a matter of making sure that the next pilot is not we don't have a hurricane like the last one we did in 2008. We had Dolly and it tore up all our intake. So we never completed that pilot on that part. So we're,
is that something that Seven Seas can help with? I mean, run the pilot, I
oh
mean,
yes, yeah, that's what they intend to do
yeah.
for,
Did they run it last time or not?
no, not last time.
We kinda did
had
our own
different engineers. I think, matter of fact, on both of the pilots, we had Norris Young that did the pilots for us, but they one of them wasn't completed, which was 2008.
Yeah.
But they're pretty knowledgeable and I think they're included with Seven Seas at the plant that
City of
they're doing up here
And now
in Alice, yes.
Yeah, at this stage with the Corps of Engineers study that we're about to kick off, Tetra Tech is on board to do some of the regulatory effort on the sewer discharge side, on the concentrate discharge. And then we have Reese and Nichols, part of their scope is to look at the seawater ultimate condition for this Port Isabel plant as well. So those are aspects to consider.
So we'll bring back some more information so that we get it all together. Just
Yeah, I mean, before we go down the road too much of us spending all our own money and time doing this, you know, it's worth looking at what would that cost versus what would it cost to just contract with Seven Seas. I have to think that Seven Seas is pretty competitive with that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a business. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Hopefully we continue to see this on the. I mean, we already have bond money approved for this, or wouldn't even matter because
Part of it we do.
it's contracted with them, right?
We're just trying to-
Yeah, because the authorization gives us that 15.6 million of cash we have up front if we
It's
proceed.
seawater anyhow, it does come from the sea.
Yeah,
But since the tax bond that was approved by the voters back in 2011, we still have that authorization, but those bonds were never issued. So we don't, if we were to sign an agreement with Seven Seas, we wouldn't necessarily have to issue those tax bonds. You know, our taxpayers aren't paying for those tax bonds at this time. So because they were never issued. So
Right.
we could do an agreement totally apart from that authorization, but that authorization still exists.
Yeah, but I suppose it would just, our rate study would have to account for this agreement and get revised accordingly.
Great. Well, what I would say is if you guys look at our numbers and visit with Seven Seas and have them break down, have their finance department, you know, hey, show us the cost here, show us what it looks like, you know, if we don't use you guys versus if we do use you guys. This was kind of a beginning presentation, but I'm sure that they can get much more specific and detailed. Show us, look, you know, if you don't use us and you proceed down this route, your 15-year water cost could be this. If you go with us, it should be this. I mean, I certainly would expect, backed by Morgan Stanley, they can run some analytics on that and give us, you know, sales pitch, so to speak, in an intelligent way. So you don't have to do all the legwork. That's legwork they should do, and I'm sure they'd be happy to do. Keep that in mind in your conversations with. That would be my next thing. Hey,
And the one of the
give me
things
cost
that
breakdown.
we'll be looking into is state funds, you know, that are out there. There's gotta be something for seawater desal that nobody's utilized that fund for anything, but there's gotta be something else. We'll be looking into that. Yeah.
Seems like a big task for us to do it by ourselves.
Yeah, I'd like to say for the authorization, the 15.6 million, I mean, that would be, say, for example, to complete the 1,800-foot intake pipeline. You know,
Yeah.
that's primarily the intake pump station is going to essentially be where this authorization can come into play for funding. And then the plant itself is in this the private public partnership with the Seven Seas.
Just assuming that it's.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, okay, great, you gave us your presentation, now give us your sales pitch with the numbers.
We'll have a workshop pretty soon, like I'm gonna bring it up.
Oh, good.
So maybe we can bring information at that time.
Great.
for September.
Thanks. Let's continue this conversation. I think it's something a lot of people in the public are interested in. And I thought, I didn't realize they could bring 3 to 5, million gallons per day.
Yeah, I mean,
More than I thought.
just as far as capacity available in this outfall extension that's already completed. I mean, that would probably support more of a 3 MGD plant with our existing outfall pipeline that's already there.
Sure.
But it's more than enough to meet our demands with an alternate water source. So
What's our average per day that we run during the year?
About 3.7.
3.7.
Yeah.
And our closer to 7 in the middle of the summer.
yeah, what's our low flow in the winter?
About 3.4. That's gradually gone up over the years, but instead of about.
Yes, there could be a condition if it's a take or pay or first priority where, it's basically the entire supply in the low period. But it depends on which one comes first.
I guess opposition we can get is, we still have water and we're using it out of our resources. Lakes that they're gonna say, why are we bringing this bad at the cost? And then you gotta say we're doing it because, it could have continued drought.
You never know.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
And why not? Why,
Continued drought.
and that
I
price,
don't wanna wait till it goes away.
and that cost of seawater is just gonna go down in cost, once we've established it. Plan, so.
yeah, I mean, we have to bring on more water supply, so why not bring on water supply that is not contingent on the river? If we have to do it, why not? Yeah, hey, we're gonna increase our cost a little bit, but we're buying something with that, which is we're drought proofing ourselves, so we're not getting something. We're not getting nothing out of it, we're getting,
Something.
yeah. We're reducing our risk, basically. It's like a risk premium.
Amistad gone down anymore. Or is it
It
steady?
actually went up, combined to 23% the last few days.
I hope they-
That was a report that I seen today, so.
It's raining pretty good in New Mexico and that western part of the state.
Yeah.
If it rains in Monterey, does that water flow to the Rio Grande as well?
Yes, and even,
Been raining a
no
lot.
better
Yeah,
above Monterey, like above.
There's a watershed that it comes off the mountains of Mexico, and a big part of it is south of the river. And that watershed goes all the way up to the mountain. So everything on the north side of that mountain range that goes all the way to Monterey, that's part of the watershed that drains out to the Rio Grande.
Finds its way there as well, because there's been a lot of rain there. So that must eventually make its way in there. So that's, looks actually pretty rainy in there more than I've seen in a lot of times.
Yeah,
Or
and
maybe it's dry.
I mean, the numbers are still rising in the reservoirs, but they've already recovered a month's worth of water supply from where it was about a month ago in July, but it's still rising.
So we're in a better place than we were, but is this the time of year though that it usually recovers anyways?
Yeah, September's the wettest month.
September is the wet month, right? So we'll see where we are, but it's always important to look at it year over year over year, right? Like, hey, we recovered some, but we're still 50% below where we were, 3 years ago. That's
Correct.
what we gotta look at. Anyways, thanks. We're getting very chatty today. Item 8, presentation by Trees and Nichols on district facilities assessment and master plan.
What's up, George?
Let's see, Andrew, I guess you can take it away.
All right, you can see my screen, sounds like.
Yes.
All right, good evening. Thanks for letting us present our master plan findings. I'm Andrew Perez, I'm with Freeze and Nichols. You may recognize Freeze and Nichols. We're the engineering firm currently designing the water improvements at Water Plant 1 and the microfiltration building and system that's part of that project. So I'm the project manager for this facilities master plan. I'm also involved with the the building design for the microfiltration building. And we also have Kirk Milliken on the phone. He's the group leader for the architecture department with Friesen Nichols, and he has a long history of doing master plans. So I'm going to present sort of a high level overview of our process that we went through. And then we'll answer any questions if you have any questions, and Kirk will be able to chime in as well. So what I have here in the packet that you guys have received are excerpts from the assessment and facilities master plan that we begun our work in back in March. So I'll just read a few highlights from the executive summary, but we were hired by the district to study and address current and future space needs for the various district departments. And we focused just on the facilities at Port Isabel. And we worked with the district's administration and officials and leadership to come up with the program and develop a space analysis. And part of that process was actually going and doing site surveys and interviews with each department. And through that, we were able to identify requirements such as numbers and types of vehicles, storage needs, so for the entire district. So through that process, we identified that currently there's 85 current positions, and the whole process was to look out 20 years. And so through that outlook, we've identified that the district will grow up to potentially 105 positions in 20 years. We also identified that there's a current 2% growth that seems to be a trend. It's a base population of over 15,000, but up to 30,000 transient tourists annually. So based on the information that we had, we figure there's a 2% growth that will continue at this rate. So what we did was we assessed the conditions of the particular facilities there at Port Isabel. And we looked at it, number one, from just a facilities physical assessment in terms of the building. And then we looked at it per code, both for life safety and accessibility. The actual facilities that we studied were the water treatment plants 1 and 2, the wastewater treatment plant, and the administration building at Port Road. And then there are 3 metal warehouse buildings at Woody's Lane. And so the goal was to determine the size and the type of facilities required. And then the end result was to come up with a conceptual master plan based on this 20-year outlook. So basically, it was basically a 4-step process. Back in March, we went and interviewed each department, and we did a site survey and we took measurements. We came back, and based on information that the district provided and based on our survey, we were able to develop existing floor plans and take areas of that. And then the district also provided an organizational chart that had all the different positions. And based on the interview process, we were able to project out how many positions, how much square footage would be required in the future. And so the current slide shows we're able to go for each department, identify future staff, future vehicle needs, and then project that into an overall square footage requirement. And so what's included in the packet is the new construction, the new buildings, and the actual report will include that. This is all an excerpt from, will include the process we went through. It will include photos of the conditions of each building. and then our final recommendations. Before we got to this point, we did develop two concepts. We developed the concept that you see now, which is a combination of new construction and then some renovation of existing buildings. We did do a conceptual master plan of a consolidated campus plan, but in order for that to be feasible, it would require some land acquisition. So based on that and the cost difference of that, we went in the direction of going with using some of the existing facilities and reusing them. And we also took advantage of the property just north of the new water treatment plant microfiltration building. So I'll jump into that real quick. We'll visit each site. Here's a quick overview of each facility that we visited. The admin building on Port Road, the warehouse buildings here identified as 3, 4, and 5 at Woody's Lane. This is the master plan, which would include new buildings, a new warehouse identified here as 7, and a new construction shop identified here as building number 8. And that's just north of Water Plant 1. And so I will jump into, I'll run through each slide. We've provided a site plan. Each site has some site improvements involved. Here at the administration building, it was identified that there is some issues with the parking layout and sort of issues with flow and the traffic, ongoing traffic exiting. So we looked at adding an additional drive-through lane, which would help get cars off the street and kind of help control the flow of traffic a little bit. We provided a new delivery drop-off area that would also help with some of the public traffic or the delivery traffic. This also is contingent upon the removal of the existing elevated water tank, and that's scheduled to happen, I understand, here in the near future. That's kind of in line and parallel with the water improvements project at Water Plant 1. So let's see. So in the packet we identify all the additional parking spots that we were able to achieve, and all of that's in line with the future projections of staff increase. And one feature that we did add was the potential of a new gazebo. It was identified that there's little to no common areas in the existing building and break room for staff. So we thought we'd provide an outdoor space that would help alleviate that and give staff a space to enjoy them outside. Let's see. And then the next site is just north of Water Plant 1. So the thought was we would utilize the newly acquired land and add a new warehouse, which would provide better access for delivery trucks. That it was identified that there's very little access, or it's very difficult to get large delivery 18-wheelers onto the site. So this would help improve that process of deliveries to the warehouse. This sort of helped consolidate some spaces too, and this would bring the new maintenance, which also is known as fleet maintenance, on-site construction services, and the lift station department. So this site is all new construction. And then by recreating the new warehouse, we were able to repurpose the warehouse buildings at Woody Lane. And so this allowed them to expand. So one of the common deficiencies for all the spaces was room for storage. There's lots of demand for storage, and this option helped to alleviate that. And then the last site that we sort of show any improvements on is at the wastewater treatment plant. And the main focus here was the requirement to have some covered storage for some equipment. It's not labeled here, but we're providing some covered storage for an existing tractor and potentially some fleet maintenance or fleet vehicles. And then just some improvements to the paving. And so essentially for the admin building, it's there's basically a 7,600 square foot addition, which basically takes up the space that was displaced from the removal of the elevated water tank. And so that would be a 1-story and 2-story stacked on a 2nd story stacked onto that. Let me see. So we were through this process, we were able to better consolidate and make some of the groups more efficient and consolidate their groupings and provide some additional break room, a large break room, and provide that near the boardroom. And kind of, we understand the boardroom currently is used as a multi-purpose space, and we chose to expand it even more by providing an additional training room next door and provide a movable wall partition that would allow it to expand even further for bigger events. Let's see. And then the 2nd floor indicates how we're able to stack and take advantage of the footprint that we've added. And with the additional footprint, we're able to provide large conference rooms. It was identified that there are times where during emergency cases or instances, there's needs for emergency control services and control events. So let's see. All right, here's the new warehouse just north of the water plant 1. And what this allowed was, by having the appropriate space, allocated space, this allowed for more security and covered areas for inventory. The problem with some of the issues they were having at the existing space is they've run out of space. So there's a lot of inventory that's visible from the street. So this allowed for everything to be more secure and more accessible. And let's see. So the common, I guess, concept plan for these new buildings is to have the core central area with office space and break room space, and then have the shops with open bays on either side. And that's the same case there for the lift station and the construction services. That was another theme from the maintenance side. They wanted more drive-through bays, if at possible. That helps ventilate the space and get fresh air in there while they're working. And then here we're at an existing space, so we were able to capture some additional footprint, interior footprint, by expanding what's currently open storage but covered under roof. If you've driven by the site, you may have noticed that the buildings do have some exterior sort of damage based on, I guess, exposure to the environment. But in general, the buildings are 20 years old and structurally they're in good condition. So they would just need some upgrades to the exterior finishes, roof and fascia, and then upgrades to restrooms and to get those up to code in terms of accessibility. And the same is true for the distribution. Now they have enough space now to take full advantage of the current warehouse. That's, I guess they share the space currently. In this particular building, really the only addition here is some renovation upgrades to restrooms and the locker room.
Can I ask
And then we
real
ju-
quick? Sorry to interrupt
Sure.
you.
No
Is-
problem.
Is this, the administration building, is that, which I know is a couple slides back?
Sure.
Is this a brand new building to be built? No, it's just a reno,
It's just an addition renovation.
Where
Yes,
they're
sir.
gonna have the water tower.
addition and renovations.
Yeah.
Just north of us, we're gonna build. I guess what just wasn't clear to me is how much of it is add-on.
Got you. Okay, sure. Let me see if I can mark it here. Basically, this area is the new footprint, both first floor and second floor.
Okay,
So the rest, it's adding on 7,600 square feet. The current building is roughly 9,000, so the new addition will bring it up to roughly 1,600 square feet, or just over 1,500 square feet, or 15,000, I'm sorry.
Of course, where the water tower is, yes.
and we can't do anything over there as parking lot, right?
Oh, that's
we
what
could.
they're
That's where,
planning. The plan has new parking areas.
New parking, new truck entrance, stuff like that.
would the entire thing be renovated? Or we would leave part of it alone?
Like this here would be,
Like, is this still the same boardroom? Or this is something else on here, right?
Add on to
Yeah.
yeah.
And then have a collapsible thing behind.
The thing I want to do is let more people in here.
Like
Yes.
This boardroom would be this way
The boardroom will go there.
partition here,
with the
Yeah.
training
where
room.
you can open it up and have bigger areas. for-
Big multi-event.
Is there a timeline on this thing happening? No,
Yeah, it's just penny funny.
no. Does Friesen Nichols have a lot of architectural experience with designing this sort of thing? Or is
Yes,
this-
sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
but I'd love to see some more of your office buildings that you guys have designed and. You know, if that was something that we end up going with Friesen Nichols to design, you know, that's a big thing. It's very segmented to me. So a lot of closed doors, a lot of closed spaces. And I know how much the staff all loves hanging out together, so I don't know in what sort of more contemporary styles that it might also be out there architecturally wise. I don't mean the look, I mean the conceiving of the spaces and how everybody works together. I don't know Friesen Nichols' expertise on that. Maybe it's really high. I don't mean to say you don't have it. I just mean to say, I don't know it. So if that day comes, I would love to hear more about that. And that would be workflow and work design and how everybody gets along.
Sure, that's a very good point. I should have emphasized from the beginning, this is a conceptual plan. So this was a study basically on square footage and how the relationship between spaces.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, after this stage, the next stage would be a whole design phase, describing what you just talked about.
And if I might interject, in part of our interviews and meeting with the departments and the staff, we went into a lot of detail as to who needed to be next to each other. And you are correct, they do have some open office now, and they do have some private office. It was felt, especially like in HR, payroll, et cetera, that those people needed to continue to have private offices.
Right,
I think that
agrees with that. Away from the-
that would
HR
be the,
separate and away from general manager's office. Have their own area.
and there's
Yeah.
also a need to be able to, people who are coming into interviews, to be able to have access for interviews relative to HR.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of considerations going into designing
Yes.
a new
And-
office space, no doubt about it.
And so what we were looking at was reusing as much of the existing building, and some of the walls, like you have a vault, you have restrooms in the east end that we did not necessarily want to change because of the cost. But we did want to take advantage of new finishes throughout, which have not been improved in years. And then looking at how can we accommodate future expansion and growth in the new areas.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it looks like it was well thought out. I just was wondering how far it went, although I don't know, feels pretty updated around here to me. Short of pain. All right, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted, to see how far along that type of process was, and it's just interesting thinking architecturally about how spaces work together. So go on.
That's fine. And I think Andrew mentioned one of the options we'd looked at was a new consolidated campus with everything on one site. And if that was going to be the case, there'd be a whole new building, and we wouldn't necessarily be constrained by the existing footprint of the administration building or the limits or the limitations of the site. So if that's something that the district would like to think about in the future, that would certainly be an option, which would probably help better consolidate some of the layouts of the departments.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I was pretty close to getting through the floor plans here. I'll just wrap it up. The last two spaces are buildings, facilities, were not as much new construction or renovation. So basically at the wastewater treatment plant, they had identified the need for a SCADA and lab workroom and additional supply storage. And like I mentioned before, covered equipment storage to the exterior. And then the last building that we decided to do any upgrades to was the lab at Water Plant 1. The lab itself, the building itself is in really good condition. So the lab itself met the needs, the current needs in terms of laboratory space. So really the only thing here was an improvement on the restroom and shower areas, bringing those up to code in terms of accessibility and providing multiple restrooms. And that's it for the floor plans. So through that process, then we went through an exercise of we have internal cost estimating within Freeze and Nichols. And so we were able to put some rough order of magnitude cost estimates together. And so that's what you see here. We thought through and working with Charles, we thought it might be best to sort of prioritize in case the construction happens in phases. And so we sort of prioritized them in terms of what we thought might be the first order of priority and construction phase. So that's what we have. The packet you have does include detail for each building, which includes site improvements for each building and then sort of line items. For the new warehouse spaces, we're able to give a cost per square foot for those types of buildings, and that's based on current data and also projects that we're involved in currently under construction. So we feel good about those numbers. And I think that's it. I guess we're open to answering any questions you might have or whatever you want to discuss.
How many square feet was the administration building addition?
The addition itself
Yeah.
was 7,600 square feet, 7,600.
Great, thanks. That's it.
Mhm.
This is all just stuff for us to have on hand if we're ready to move forward with it, I assume, right? Okay, great. None of this stuff is anything we have funding for, correct?
That's correct.
Shall we proceed? Appreciate your time tonight, you guys. I'm glad we're doing some pre-planning on a lot of things. And this is something that we need to have, right? We need to think through the costs of it. Yes, it's absolutely essential that we did it. So my thanks to Breeze and Nichols.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will move on to item 9, correct? General
Oh,
manager.
yes, sir. Mr. Vice Chairman, members of board, we do have a groundbreaking ceremony that we need to have in September. And the question would be, what would be the most available for you guys to see the calendar up there? Weekend, workday? Anything that you guys desire, will fit it in.
I'm out for a big chunk of the month. I mean, the Saturday morning, the 24th, I'm around, maybe.
I'm not going back to my.
Okay. We'll be here then. I'm around the week of, later in the week on of that week. I'm around 5, 6, 7, 8 and 20, 21, 22, 23. You guys want to do it early in the
Maybe
morning?
sometime in the first of the week, first of the month, 5, 6, 7, 8, one of those days.
5, 6, 7, 8, okay. Coming right around the corner, so.
If
okay.
that's too
go.
early, it doesn't matter to push it to the end. Yeah, let's not do that week then.
So maybe 28, 29, around then, is that all right?
Yeah,
Early morning?
it's fine with me. Yeah.
Sure, okay. That sounds like.
5:30 a.m.
8 a.m., yeah. We need to get it ready. How about, let's see,
You'll
the
zoom it?
14th to
Good.
28th was the board meeting, so how about Thursday, the 29th?
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, 8:30 a.m. is good for me. What time works for you?
8 o'clock,
8's
8:30?
even better, actually.
Yeah, we can do
Great,
it.
let's do 8.
We'll have it
That way
set
you'll
up.
remind me
Hopefully-
Wednesday to be there.
Hopefully, yes, we will. That it's not gonna rain again like last time,
It
so.
doesn't rain, it's got
we'll- Okay, got it.
Yes,
Thursday, the
29.
29. At about 8 a.m. Daisy, go. You'll be asleep.
Stacy, hey, getting up early. See you later. Are you a late riser, Daisy?
We'll have it ready. It won't take long. It'll be about an hour, maybe. Hopefully that.
What's the hard part? Getting the donuts?
Tacos. He's gonna make the tortillas.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, okay, we thank you for that one. The next one, we did have a meeting at South Padre Island. Charles and I attended it, and the outcome was just presenting the drought management plan.
You went to their city meeting?
Yes, we did.
That's really nice of you guys.
Yes, they really had a good invite for us, and they welcomed us and thanked us for being there. And I thank them for inviting us to go. And again, transparency is our mission with South Padre. And we wanted to explain everything, and if they had questions, to let us know. But we are working on our drought management plan again, because we want to make it like more concise and perfect to meet the demands. Like I think we're off on some of the days where you start on 8 p.m. to midnight, and then the next day would be another day. And then you get that time like from midnight to 8 a.m., which is another day, not the same day as before. So we're working on that one where we can make it exactly like there's an example that I received from
I was up at
Bill
Katy,
Donahue.
when I was up at
from
Katy,
Katy.
they had a sign, they actually had signs all different places, like an entrance. You know, like at 12, where you'd have a sign, says, emergency, water, ground, whatever.
Right,
You got the
stage
sign,
3
and then it
on
gives
one of
the
them.
hours. Tells you
Right.
the hours.
Right.
I said, and you know, there are signs you can use forever. And so I said, there might be something you want to do, because seeing it all the time might be a better.
There's a lot of confusion over it when we did it, and our wording is
That's right, that
confusing,
is-
and so I think
That's true.
assuming we may be in these conditions more, or even if we're not, it makes sense to tighten up our language and
Yes.
just kind of dial it in.
We
So,
did
that-
find something available. at
Isn't
the
that on our
TCQ.
agenda tonight?
Yes, it
Approving
is.
that?
It is. And it's we found it at the TCQ website where they already have a format for us prepared, and it's similar to what everybody else does. So we are working at it at this time.
So
I
it's,
saw some wordings, we need to make a few more changes, but as long as the board approves, we'll move forward with it and then come back and.
so this is an approval to work on it.
Yes,
Okay,
Exactly.
not to finalize.
right.
Okay, great.
But it'll be on the next item from the. Yeah, number 10. Anyhow, the next one that I have here is going back to the Board of Directors elections update. The 22nd was the last day for the applications to come back into us. So we send all the information on Monday to the county. And the 26th would be the last day for write-ins. Where somebody still wants to run, there will be where they have to write in the name of that person but the 26th Friday would be a deadline on that one. We do have on Monday, the 29th, a meeting for place 1, where we need to see who's gonna place on top or the bottom. And that would be for place 1 only. We haven't had anything for place 5 yet,
Which place
only
am I?
years, yes.
Which
years.
place am I?
That's-
5?
5, correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll remind. We did send a notice, but we'll remind Jason, and I think I have the wrong number all the time. I got it taken care of. So then the next one that I have here is Saturday, September 3rd. I think the staff had worked on a summer picnic and just to. We didn't have one for the COVID time and all that, so we decided that it's okay to have one for the kids, where a lot of our employees have young kids that wanna go out and have a little bit of fun on that Saturday. So it'll be, and it's for the board members too. You guys are invited. Brian too. It'll be September 3rd at Slitter Bonds or the Beach Park. That's the new name on it. And we'll be in the front area, giving the passes to everybody that goes there that belongs to the water district.
So Beach Park, great.
So
Splitter bombs.
Yep.
We called it.
that's the one.
That's
Slitter
what my
Bonds.
dad called it.
Okay, then the next one, the upcoming budget workshop that we've been talking about, September 7th. Reminder at 5:30 p.m.
All right.
Okay, we'll call you guys. And we'll probably add something to that one on the desal too. A little bit of maybe another agenda item in there to get more information.
That's everybody.
Yes,
That's
that's
what-
correct. Even our staff will be there to answer questions. I know the managers and the assistants will probably be there. So. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galvin. Much appreciated. Item 10, consider and discuss for possible approval, a resolution to adopt revisions to the water conservation and drought contingency plan for the district.
What were the highlights of the changes that were made?
This is just to make it, this isn't actually to make the changes official, right?
Oh, I'm with you.
Right?
Yes, and then we're
Yes to which
still
of
working
those?
on some of the time. And I think it just goes to number,
So you'll bring it back to us to approve again, right?
we
Is
sure
that what-
will.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
That, like you see that format in there, that's what it's gonna be, but we just need to make sure that we have the correct numbers and it's,
This says that it's take effect immediately upon approval,
well,
and it's hereby adopted official policy.
it could be with corrections in it.
I mean, that's not what this said.
If that's the case, then I would
Well,
rather table it until
think-
until we get a better or take no action, whatever's better.
Charles.
Yeah, I think because there's a, I mean, just to kind of wrap it up in a nutshell, the front half of this, chapters 1 through 6 was just an update to get everything current, because it referenced, a 2008 asset management plan, a 2004 master plan. And so it was really just getting everything current to where we've been, chapters 1 through 6. And then as far as the actual drought contingency plan, it's just language straight out of the state guidance document. And about the only thing we struck through and changed was, rather than using the number of the address ending in an even or odd number, we can designate it by towns, South Padre Island, Port Isabel, Laguna Vista. And then the other part is the times in the state template are different from the times that we're using today. And so I think one of Carlos's recommendations is just to keep the times to what we're still using. Don't change the times for the beginning and end date. So that's probably one revision to still come in. And then there's a level of extreme conditions where we would go to water allocation, like a stage 6 response. And really with the accounting system in place at the river, and then, our future alternate water supply, there's probably no need to ever go to a water allocation stage. So we could probably just strike out the stage 6 entirely as we continue to review this document.
Okay, great. So let's table it for today then.
That'll be. Yes.
Great. So do I need a motion to table?
I move that we table.
Yes.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Bowder to table, second by Mr. Donahue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 11, consider and discuss possible approval for purchasing nodes and hangers for 5/8" water meters.
The purchase for this material is just for inventory purposes. We're recommending the board to approve and award the purchase to Mueller for the purchase of 200 notes and hangers for $15,800.
These are just, you're gonna have to get them anyway, you just have to have the stock.
Yes.
I move that we approve.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Bowder, second by Mr. Donahue, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Actually, there was only one aye. Approved. Yeah, he approves as well. All right. You never know who's gonna watch this someday and
Right.
come back. So there's only one aye. Okay. Consider and discuss possible approval for purchase. Item 12, consider and discuss possible approval for purchasing employee uniforms for the district.
Every 2 years, we purchase uniforms for the employees. We issue an RFP, and after evaluating all the proposals that we receive, staff is recommending board approval and award a contract to Uniform Sales for $39,441.
It's a budgeted item, right?
Yes.
And you guys,
Motion approved.
yeah, second.
Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Bowder, on favor.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider and discuss item 13 for possible approval of a contract for Isla Blanca wastewater treatment plant lower building improvements.
Yeah, there are some improvement that needs to do to the lower building, especially on the roof, to avoid any damage to the equipment. This is a Bible quote, so it's only one. So the recommendation is for the board to approve and award the contract to Square Engineering for the improvement of the Isla Blanca wastewater treatment plant lower building not to exceed 206,942.70.
We already had budgeted 312.
We have budget for this year, 312,000.
Enrique, if I could make a correction, the Square D Engineering is the engineering firm. So the contractor here is the Easy IQC, the CPM design. Yes,
The CPM design is the one doing the work.
it'll be the contractor, yes.
I move that we approve the CPM design for 206,942.
Motion made by Mr. Bowder,
So
second by Mr. Donahue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We've already covered item 14. Item 15, consider and discuss for possible approval, 12-month supply of chemicals for the water plant, wastewater plant collections and lift station departments.
We request proposals for the annual contract for the chemicals. There was an increase of 45% compared to this year. Our recommendation is the board to approve and award the contract to all lowest bid. The tabulation, the highlighted ones are the lowest proposals. On the next page, you can see a comparison between current year to next year.
This was the one that we were shocked at during the budget meeting.
So am I wrong in seeing that on some of these, there are no other proposals? There's no competitive bids?
Yes, some of the chemicals.
Why is that?
Uh,
Like the second highest one is chlorine and we don't have a bid, but we don't have a competitive bid, right?
yeah, no,
That's one of the makers of chlorine and sulfur dioxide. The next one is in Louisiana, and that's the only one. We know that Mexico does produce chlorine, but we can't bring it
Back and
across
forth.
back and forth, right?
So we don't have another viable option is,
Always don't.
we never received an order.
And that goes with certain of the other chemicals that are in there.
Mhm.
That only certain companies produce that. But as we bid all these, we send it out for 3 weeks and make sure that everybody that can get a hold and even provide a quote. Mostly they're local in the state of Texas. Of course, there is companies that are outside the state, but they don't want to come deliver all the way over here for that price or a lower price. So they tend not to bid on it.
Yeah, we run into the same problem with some materials, sand, something like that.
Yeah.
Just stuck with the transportation fee.
are there brokers for these types of things? At this level of money?
Not that I know.
Seems like a lot of money. I'd love to see us, since it's such a big line item. You know, I'd love to know how aggressive we were at getting quotes, especially for things like, $300,000. We only have 2 on the liquid ammonium sulfate. I have no idea about it. Maybe it's like, hey, there's one plant in the country. This is it. I know nitrous oxide for dentistry, there's like 2 places and if it goes down. We're just gonna have to.
Like a commodity, right?
Yeah,
As far as
there's
like-
not a lot, but I also don't know how hard we looked at it, or if there's other
We
places.
we advertise local newspaper.
Yeah.
We advertise on Business. That's
I'm familiar.
company. Oh,
So they're out there. So the advertising is one thing, but it's another thing to like go somewhere and be like, hey.
Solicit.
Yeah,
We do
solicit.
that
Yeah,
too.
we do that too.
Send them
So
out, yes.
just kind of throw that out to you guys, having sat in that budget meeting and knowing how tight things are. I would be as aggressive as we possibly can with it. So just.
Is it
throw that
something we
urge
can,
out there.
is it something we can table? Till the next meeting, or is it something that's time sensitive?
yeah, Contracts ends October 1st.
Okay.
We need to issue POs and I don't have time to redo the RFP.
Okay.
And based on these numbers, that's a number we use for the budget.
Yes, the answer is no. We really don't
And,
have-
and we do solicit like every year the same amount and possibly a few more companies that come in. But otherwise, the same procedures are done every year and we try to get the best companies at the lowest price and advertise as much and solicit as much as we can. So
And every year we have one or two different
vendors.
vendors, yes, participation.
Motion to approve.
A second.
Mr. Donnie says, I'm done with
Yeah,
that.
that's it. Well, we looked at it the other day and that was the number that jumped out to Adam and I. too.
All right, motion on the table
Second.
from Mr. Bowder, second, or from Mr. Donnie, second by Mr. Bowder. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
But I agree with what you said, Adam. Maybe in future years, we really get aggressive about soliciting ourselves. I mean, I don't know if you haven't, but
Item 16, consider and discuss possible approval for the purchase of security cameras, the finance department.
This is one item that was budgeted for this fiscal year. We are changing camera for the entrance of the plants and the warehouse. They're better of what we have right now. So we're recommending board approval and award the purchase to GTS Technology Solutions for the purchase of 8 cameras and 3 years camera license software for $12,663.
I'm going to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Bowder. Second by Mr. Donahue, on favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 17, consider and review expenditures from August 1st, to August 15th, 22.
Knowledge?
Any questions on any expenditures or just acknowledged?
I acknowledge.
Acknowledged by Mr. Bowder, Mr. Donahue, I acknowledge. Item 18, consider and discuss possible approval to purchase a 50-foot towable man lift for distribution department.
Yeah, this equipment was also budgeted for this year. We have some quotes in the back of this item. So we are recommending board approval and award the purchase to Texas Equipment Rental for the purchase of a 50-foot towable man lift for $25,955.
Is it brand new?
No,
It's used.
we issue an RFP for a new equipment. We didn't receive any response because it's a year to a year and a half to have a new,
Yeah, we're fine with that.
but we want to look for a used equipment.
I'm going to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Bowder. Second by Mr. Donahue, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19, thank you, sir. Item 19, concern discuss possible approval addendum to the Cameron County Tax Assessor Collector Agreement to include Long Island Village designated area.
So this is an agreement with Cameron County. We're not doing a separate agreement. We're just doing an addendum to the existing agreement. So they're already doing our collections for us for property taxes. So this is an addendum so that they will collect the Long Island Village designated area as well. So
Motion approved.
Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Bowder, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Pending any other business, we adjourn this meeting at 7:14.